It was a cold winter morning in Buffalo, and I was waiting for a mass to begin in a parish in the back of the church. And there was a large fountain for baptism by immersion. There was this young 5-year-old kid wearing a nice sweater who walked over to the fountain, was checking it out, looked around, saw that the coast was clear, and he took his arm and he plunged it all the way up to his shoulder into the water, soaking wet. And he smiled ear to ear, pulled out his hand, and he blessed himself. And his brother, who was just a little older, looked at him, and he said, "Well, if my brother did that, I think I could do the same." And before he could move, the mother grabbed both of them and pulled them away from the fountain. The brother had a very positive reaction to that. The mother, not so positive a reaction to that. While the kid certainly engaged our Christian symbols, we look at the mother, she was concerned about the sweater and the kid having to sit through Mass being all wet. Reactions to the same thing are different for different people. Think for a moment of today's first reading. What was the reaction of those who were listening to Paul? What was your reaction as you listened to Paul? Paul said, "There are many hardships that we must endure to get to the kingdom of heaven." Some people might say, "Oh my gosh, there's so many hardships." Others, "We're getting to the kingdom of heaven." What was the response to Jesus by his disciples in today's gospel passage? What was our reaction? Jesus says, "I have to go away, but I'll be back." Do some focus on the away, while others focus on the I'll be back soon? It's that proverbial question that we get about the glass with water filled to the very middle. Is it half full or is it half empty? Optimism versus pessimism. What is the reaction that I have to given situations? Do we tend to be optimists? Do we tend to be pessimists? I believe that what Jesus is calling us to in the Christian life is to be neither optimist nor pessimist, but instead to engage in a new way. To engage in such a way as you hold that metaphorical glass of water that has a situation, a dynamic, whatever it is that's in it, up to the middle mark with water. What does Jesus say? Don't look at it as an optimist, don't look at it as a pessimist, but instead take your hand like that kid did in that baptismal font and plunge it into the water. And when we do that, plunging our hand into the glass, it becomes full and overflowing because we have placed ourselves into that situation, into that dynamic, and thereby we change the dynamic as we bring our own experience, our own life, our own gifts, whatever is within us, into that space to change it and make it new. Some bring suffering and pain. Plunge ourselves into that, change it and make it new. Some bring joy and hopes. Plunge ourselves into that, change it, and make it new, so that together we can walk to the kingdom of the Father and all the goodness that is promised us. Amen.